You're listening to The Power Project. I'm your host, Brandy Vogt. It's my goal each week to inspire and empower you to go out and live purpose-filled lives and own your God-given power. Now, some weeks that looks like me spotlighting women that are doing just that and sharing their stories with you. Other weeks, it looks like my take on things. And currently, it looks like a book study that we are doing over on our Facebook page, The Power Project. Now, whether you agree with Rachel Hollis's newest book, Girls Stop Apologizing, or not, one thing that cannot be debated is the fact that it is a high achiever's tool to operating a hustle, a business, or whatever you want to call it. So let's go ahead and dig right in today and see what nuggets of wisdom are there waiting for us. We are in week 2 of Girls Stop Apologizing. This week we are covering chapters 4, 5, and 6. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Brandy Vogt. I am the founder of The Power Project, and we did a book study last year on Girl Wash Your Face, which we all really loved, and we were able to discuss what we thought about the book and how it impacted us. So for those of you who don't know, I am not doing a regurgitation of Girls Stop Apologizing. If you want that, then you can hop over to the Hollis Co. morning shows when they do their book study. So what this book study actually looks like is I've taken the Girls Stop Apologizing book and I've broken it down into the chapters, and then I give my spin on it, my take on it, because I really enjoy the book as far as applying it to a side hustle, a business, a nonprofit, what have you. So this book is, I think it's a really helpful book for anyone that is looking to just get some tangible, broken down steps as to what it looks like to pursue a dream, to run a business, to follow God's will. And you can have your opinion, whatever you think, but it is a really good resource and tool to have. So the chapters that we're covering this week are chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6, which are I'm not enough to succeed. I can't pursue my dream and still be a good mom, daughter, employee. And I'm terrified of failure. So give me 1 second. We'll dive right in. All right, so the I'm not enough to succeed chapter, I don't know about you guys, but that one spoke to me so much. It's something that I hear all the time from women. It's something that I actually told myself in the beginning that held me back from actually following my calling and pursuing my purpose and getting out of my own way. So I actually I was voted like most likely to succeed back in high school. I know that's crazy, and some of those things, like, why would you even bring that up? Because it's something that was important to me back then. I had a really large scholarship to a difficult college, a private liberal arts school, and I was really set up for great things. I had great plans in life, and then I ended up being overwhelmed, not knowing about self-control and boundaries and when to really just take a step back and maybe like take a breather. And I quit and I walked away from this giant scholarship, and it plagued me for a very long time after that. So when we talk about saying that we're not enough, I always knew that I wanted to do more, but I felt under-equipped. So I started talking. I really had a call in my heart to start this whole like women's retreat thing and a platform to really empower and inspire women. And I was talking about it with my girlfriend, and I was telling her these ideas that I had and tossing it around. And I said, this is what I really want to do. And she said, so why don't you do it? When are we going to do this? And I said, who wants to hear me speak? Like, I don't even have a degree. I don't know if I know what I'm talking about. I don't know that I'm qualified enough. And she, thank you for being that kind of friend, said, are you kidding me? Steve Jobs dropped out of college, and he didn't let that hold him back from his dreams.
So that was really the kick that I needed in my pants. Now, flip the script. That exact same friend, when I told her that I wanted her to speak at this retreat, her take was, why? What would I have to say? What would I have to share? And y'all, this girl has her master's and a lot of letters behind her name. So it's funny that we all do this. It's funny that we all question whether or not we're enough, whether or not we have what it takes to do these big things. So there's a scripture on the chalkboard behind me, and depending on which view you're looking at me from, you may or may not see it backwards, but I love it. It's one that I was in my devotional a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, man, if that is not so relevant to this chapter. It's Esther 4:14, and it says, "Who knows that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" And I love that. I'm thinking, we are so equipped. We are so much more equipped and so much more called than what we ever could even ask for. So I want you to think of that when you're trying to decide what you're supposed to do, when you're faced with a crossroads, when you're trying to decide, are you enough? Do you have what it takes? And then my second scripture on that one is Ephesians 3:20. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine according to his power that is work within us. Okay, so here's the kicker, you guys. When we're questioning ourselves and we're trying to decide if we're enough, and we're thinking, I'm not enough to do X, Y, and Z, on your own, you're not actually enough. I hate to say this, and I hate to break it down to you, but the power that is instilled within you, your God-given power, says that you are enough. He says that you are enough. He says that you're equipped for such a time as this. So all you have to do is answer the call, because we are enough through him. So that all sounds great. That all sounds inspiring. But how do we decide? How do we actually start believing that we're enough? How do we say, I don't care if I don't have a degree, I can still go out and I can still inspire others. And I don't care if I have enough accomplishments under my belt. I have a passion in my belly to tell other women they can do that. So for starters, I want you to take out your journal, your notebook, your list, whatever it is that you write down, things that keep you on track. And I want you to list your strengths. I want you to list 5 strengths that you have. These can be a wide variety of subjects, but all of us have 5 strengths, I promise. If you don't know what your 5 strengths are, call your best friend, call your mom, call your grandma, call someone that will speak into you and list them. But it can be, maybe it's that you're a good friend, okay? So let's break down, what are the characteristics that makes a good friend? All right, can you listen? Are you loyal? Are you supportive? Are you honest? What are the things that make you that good friend? So those are strengths, right? Maybe it's that you make an amazing apple pie. So what does that look like? Well, that means that you can follow directions. It means that you can follow a procedure. It means that you can improvise when you don't have the right ingredients, right? So those are characteristics that make you an amazing baker. List these strengths, 5 strengths, okay? And then underneath those strengths, I want you to write that you are enough. And I want you to write down Esther 4:14 and Ephesians 3:20. And I want you to look at this every single day. If you have to tape it to your makeup mirror, if you have to tape it in the bathroom, if you have to put it on your computer, heck, I've got a lady on my team that tattooed it on her wrist that says enough. Because you are enough through him. You are equipped. You have the tools. It does not, your degree, your education, your financial status, your weight, none of that defines that you're enough. But he defines that you're enough, and he says that you've been called, and he says that you're equipped to do great things. So you can go out and you can do those great things. So that was chapter 1 in the book, in the Girl Stop Apologizing, I'm not enough. That wasn't actually chapter 1. That was the Gospel according to Brandy. So chapter 2, or I'm sorry, you guys, I get all wound up. Chapter 5, that was chapter 4. So chapter 5 is I can't pursue my dream and still be a good mom, daughter, employee. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it, you guys. I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, okay? Remember that scholarship that we talked about? Remember that I was going to go change the world and do great big things, that I walked away from the scholarship and I quit college. And I ended up being a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. And I never actually anticipated being a stay-at-home mom ever, or even really a mom. But I love it. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm so happy that I had it in my life. And I'm so glad I had those 10 years with my kids. And you guys, I threw myself in like 110%. And I was like, all right, if I'm a mom, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to be the best stay-at-home mom they've ever seen. I'm going to have the organic, all homemade from scratch treats for class. I'm going to be at every class party. I'm going to go above and beyond. I'm going to do this thing big. And my mom game was on point, like on point. I was June Cleaver, kids house. That's what I did. But there was always something in me that was a fire and a dream, and I always wanted more. Not more than my kids and my family, but just to serve more, to be impacted more, to make a bigger impact. I knew there was a big calling that I was supposed to be answering and I was supposed to be doing. And when I would talk to my husband about wanting to start another career, he would come back with, I'm just concerned that this is going to take time away from like us, our family unit. We love having you here. And he would say, I take care of you and everything's good. And I don't know why you need something outside of this. And so this was something that I dealt with, but I never thought that if I pursued my dream, that it would make me a less of a mom or less of a wife or less of a daughter or an employee. I just thought, how could being the best version of me ever make me less than? And you guys, it's been amazing, because once I started pursuing my hustle, my dreams, my goals, my purpose, my vision, like my husband and my kids see me through completely different eyes now. My kids are so proud of what mom's doing. They are so excited for me. My husband is so proud of me. There's such a respect there that is just, it's a mutual respect, and they get it. They know they've been brought into this bigger purpose. I brought them into it, and I was like, guys, this is the goal. This is the vision. This is what we're doing together. And they love that. It also makes the time that is allotted for just my kids and just my husband so much more special, because it's not just me on their terms, but it's the fact that we all have our own individual times now. So I was a stay-at-home mom that made the breakfast every morning and the snacks and the lunch, packed the lunch and cooked the dinner. You guys, my kids are a little older now. My kids are at the age where they have to start learning to do things on their own. And I'm at a point where my schedule is like crazy busy. So they've stepped up to the plate. They've started doing things on their own. They are perfectly happy to make their own breakfast now. Doesn't mean that mom's not up, that I'm not chatting with them. I'm just not necessarily in the kitchen preparing their meals. But then on days like today, when I know that there's a big test coming up, and I make sure that I make the breakfast burritos and I have the conversation in the kitchen and we talk about it over the breakfast table, it makes that a little more special. It's not just something that mom does every single day anymore. And you can send me whatever letters you think about my parenting, but I probably won't read them if they're nasty. So that is what works in our house. That is how I have not become less of a mom, daughter, or employee, because I've chased my dreams and I've pursued my calling. So I want to point you guys to a Bible illustration, and I want to point you guys to the story of Deborah and Barak and Jael. If you guys don't know who these women are, they're in the book of Judges in the Bible. Go look them up. They are my favorite women of all time. And I just want to point out the fact that, so Deborah was a prophetess who was judging Israel in the book of Judges. All right. She was married. She had a husband. The Bible doesn't really mention she was called the mother of Israel, but they don't really mention that she had children. But she was a wife. And when she was called to go lead with Barak and lead an army of 10,000 people to defeat this horrible commander, Sisera, she didn't stop and question the Lord's calling on her life if it was going to make her less of a wife. All right? Neither did Jael, who is actually called in the Bible the most blessed wife of Heber. I'm really great with Bible pronunciations. And She literally followed God's call on her life and stuck a tent stake through Sisera's temple, which delivered the people of Israel from 20 years of oppression. And then they lived for 40 years in freedom. So she was the most blessed wife of Heber, and she followed God's call. She followed the Lord's will for her life, you guys. These women led roles. They led men, armies of men. And they didn't think for a second that it made them less of a wife. Maybe they did, but that's not in the Bible anywhere. So stop thinking that. That is imposed by society. You guys can be stronger together with your spouse and your children and your parents and whomever while still pursuing your call and your purpose in life.
This episode is brought to you by Brandy Voth Beauty. Have you tried the #1 skincare brand in all of North America? Well, if not, today is your day. Head over to the-powerproject.com, click on Powerful Beauty, and take a 30-second skincare consultation to see what products are recommended for your skin concerns. Email yourself those results, and then I will personally mail you a thank you gift for your time. That's thepowerproject.com, Powerful Beauty.
So now let's go back to that notebook or that journal, whatever you are writing your answers on, your love notes to yourself. Take it out, and I want you to write down those goals that we talked about last week, the goals that we have that we're going to attain, marathon, business, weight, whatever it is, personal development, personal growth, whatever those goals are. I want you to write down in this journal, in this notebook, how are you going to feel when you accomplish those goals? All right, so that's going to be your first. I am going to feel blank when I accomplish blank goal. Then I want you to write down how your husband's going to feel when you accomplish that goal. What he's going to think, what he's going to say to you, what your ideal phrase that you would hear come out of your husband's mouth is. Is it, I'm proud of you? Is it, you look great? Is it, you're inspiring? Is it, I want to do this with you? Whatever your husband would say to you when you accomplish that, write that down. Okay, so then I want you to write down what your kids are going to say about you when you achieve those goals we talked about last week. Okay, I want you to write down, I just accomplished this goal, and my kids said this. My kids think this. My kids are happy that I did blank. Now I want you to write down what your friends are going to say. Ideally, your best friend in the whole world. What's she going to say when you accomplish that goal? All right, so you guys, you've written those things down. All right, so that's down below where you've written your talents, that you're enough. All right, and now we're going to talk about a fear of failure. I'm terrified of failure is chapter 6. Are you terrified of failure? There are so many people in the world that are terrified of failure, and they're letting it cripple them, and they're staying in this paralyzed place where they're unable to move forward because they're scared of failing. And you guys, if you hear nothing else that comes out of my mouth, hear this when I tell you, success lies in a willingness to fail. Boom. Period. That is what makes the difference between successful people and those that don't achieve success. It is simply a willingness to fail. And sometimes it's a willingness to fail over and over and over again and just keep going. And you might be pleasantly surprised at yourself and what you've accomplished. So let me give you like a little funny example. When I started yoga, I had done yoga at home by myself for years, but I'd never done a class. Like class workout settings kind of terrify me because I was totally not an athlete. It takes me back to junior high, trying to play basketball, trying to work out, and looking like a total joke in front of everyone that was actually an athlete. So when I started yoga, I did not take up a class at a studio for a very long time. And when I finally did, I felt really confident on the fact that, okay, I know my poses. I'm good. I'm flexible. I've got this. And so I went into the class, and you guys, I was the youngest in the class by like 20 years. And so I went into class, and I thought, okay, this is cool. This is good. I got this. Like, I mean, I'm the youngest chick here. I'm in good shape. It's going to be fine. And then we started doing yoga, and they started doing far more intensive poses than what I was used to. They started holding the poses far longer than I ever held the poses. And I started shaking and I started getting weak, and there were poses I couldn't do, and I could not do a forward fold and touch the floor. And all of these women that were in the room older than me were killing it. And I was so aggravated. I could not believe that I was the youngest one in the room and I could not do yoga as well as these other ladies were. But you know what? I didn't let that hold me back. I still kept showing up. I still kept showing up every week. I still kept showing up to the classes. And then eventually, I was folding just as well as they were. I was holding the poses just as long as they were. But I had to get over myself and my fear of failing in front of others, let myself fail in front of others, and then continue moving forward. It's the same in life, all right? So speaking, I've been a speaker all my life. I did my first speech in the 3rd grade in front of the Rotary Club, and I love speaking. And I actually never had the fear of failure with speaking. I know a lot of you guys do at home, and I'm telling you, you can get over it. I can teach you how. That is in a different episode. However, I had won trophies and awards throughout my life, and then my senior year of high school, I was at the regional meet for our speaking competitions, and I had won the prelims. I was in the final qualifications. Like, I had taken first place, hands down, unanimously, and I was tracked to go right on to state on the next competition. All I had to do was go in and give one 3-minute speech, and I was done. And so I was really excited about it. I knew that I was about to get to state, and I went in and I had my speech planned and I was ready to go. And all of a sudden, I walked into the room, which should have been only a few judges, and it was judges, and it was also my peers. It was my teachers. It was all the students from my school that were at this meet because I was the last event they were waiting on. So everyone thought they would come in and support me. And for the first time in my life, after I had been speaking for 9 years at that point, I froze. I totally froze. And I looked at the room and I got the dry mouth feeling, and I blew through what should have been a 3-minute speech in about 59 seconds flat. I rambled. I did not enunciate. I did not hit all of the key points I wanted to in that speech, and I choked. I failed miserably. Needless to say, I did not win. I did not go on to the next competition, but you guys, I failed. But you see, and then I got up and I gave another speech after that, and another speech after that, another speech after that, another speech after that. So the willingness to fail, the willingness to put myself out there and say, I might win or I might fail, is what leads to success. The failures and the successes build upon each other until you achieve success. But you have to be willing to do it. You have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. So I have a girl that I interviewed on the Power Project here. If you go find her in the Spotlight interviews, Alicia Bush, she was my first interview on the Power Project platform. And she talked about letting fear hold her back. And we talked about this. And I'm not certain we talked about it in that podcast, in that interview. It may have been a different interview, but she talked about the fear of failure keeping you from success actually being a form of disobedience. It's a form of not listening to God's call on your life. And it's a form of you saying that you know better than the God calling you, because you're staying paralyzed in this fear of failure. You're terrified of failure. So she said, actually, if I didn't go through with it, if I didn't follow it, if I didn't step outside of my comfort zone, I would really be being disobedient to God, which I thought was so impactful. So Proverbs 29:25 says that the fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. And that's honest to goodness the truth that I want you guys to carry out. When you start thinking of being terrified of failure, I want you to think about, who are you scared of failing? Men, people, your neighbor, a girl from 4th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, whatever. Get over that and just follow God's call for your life, whatever it is, whatever you are feeling the urge to do, go do it. So my last call to action for you guys on this study is going to be go back to your journal, and I want you to write down whatever it is that you're scared of failing at. And I want you to say, I'm scared of not being good at whatever your failures are. And then I want you to take a Sharpie and I want you to mark through them. And I want you to say, I am great at public speaking. I have succeeded in business. I have followed my dreams. I will not let fear hold me in a paralyzed state and keep me from achieving my success. You guys, you can do this. I promise you. And I am happy to be your coach to walk you through the steps of it. I'm thankful to Miss Rachel Hollis for this book to give me the tools of guiding you through this. And if you haven't read the book, go check it out. Download it on Audible. Have a listen. And I'll see you guys next week for the next chapters.
I don't know about you guys, but I am loving this book. I am loving the tangible takeaways from it. I'm loving this study where I get to make it my own and put my own spin on how it applies to my life. And I love sharing it with you all. So as always, if you enjoyed what you heard today, do us a favor. Go write a review, please, on iTunes. That would mean so much to me. And it helps me to bring this free content to you each week. Then get crazy. Share it on social media and go tell all your girlfriends about it. I can't wait to chat with you guys next week. But until then, go out and live your best purpose-filled life.